This is macOS Ken.
Apple Music takes one of the biggest stages around, more on shifting iPhone orders, and big little updates for little big things. It is Friday, the 23rd of September, 2022. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/macOSKen. This show is also sponsored by Notion, one workspace for your whole team. If you've got a project with lots of people and a few parts, or a few people and lots of parts, or any place in between, Notion could be an excellent tool for you. Not all work collaboration tools are created equal. Some help you organize your company's information, others allow you to manage projects together. Notion does both. It is one tool for your whole team to do it all, so beautifully designed everyone will want to use it. I had a small project recently with a small number of people. Just needed to post a few audio choices in one place that everyone could visit and weigh in. Though I had not used Notion for anything like that before, I had what I needed in about 20 minutes. Whether you're working on work or a project at home, the wealth of tools available is truly impressive. But find out for yourself. Learn more and get started for free right now at Notion.com. Take the first step toward an organized, happy team today. Go to Notion.com to get started today. Notion, Notion.com. Are you ready for some football? Apple Music apparently is. Variety ran a report Thursday saying that Cupertino's streaming music service is taking Pepsi's place as the sponsor of the 2023 Super Bowl halftime show. That's kind of a big deal. Variety ties the news to Apple's growing interest in sports programming, including streaming Major League Baseball games this year and signing a multi-year deal for the streaming rights to Major League Soccer. Here's the thing, though. Even if Apple had no interest in sports, the halftime show is one of the biggest advertising platforms in the world. Variety says the spectacle draws one of the biggest single TV audiences of the year. In a prepared statement, Oliver Schusser, VP of Apple Music and Beats, said, "Music and sports hold a special place in our hearts, so we're very excited Apple Music will be part of music and football's biggest stage. We're looking forward to even more epic performances next year and beyond with the Apple Music Super Bowl halftime show." Apparent support for a story I brought you earlier this week. On Monday, TF International analyst Ming-Chi Kuo took to Twitter to say that Apple had asked Foxconn to shift some of its line work from the consumer-end iPhone 14s to the more expensive iPhone 14 Pros. Now, supply chain employees who spoke to IT Home say that is a thing that is happening. Mac Rumors writes up the story. According to that, Foxconn has been instructed to dismantle at least 5 production lines that were previously making the iPhone 14 in Zhengzhou, China. Such a move could help allay one fear of at least one Apple-watching financial analyst. With wait times for iPhone Pro models slipping into November, Wedbush analyst Daniel Ives expressed concern earlier this week that Apple might not have enough units to meet demand this holiday season. Another day of smallish updates for Apple's latest hardware. The Mac Observer says Apple has released iOS 16.0.2, addressing a number of issues for a number of iPhone models. For Apple's latest phones, the update's release notes say iOS 16.2 fixes the camera rattle and hum in some third-party apps. Camera may vibrate and cause blurry photos when shooting with some third-party apps on iPhone 14 Pro and iPhone 14 Pro Max, according to the notes. 16.0.2 will apparently fix that. Other issues hit, according to Apple. That thing where iOS 16 sought user permission every time the user tried to copy and paste between apps? Yeah, it won't do that as much in iOS 16.0.2. Display may appear completely black during device setup. VoiceOver may be unavailable after rebooting. And for phones older than last week, Apple's note says the update addresses an issue where touch input was unresponsive on some iPhone 10, iPhone XR, and iPhone 11 displays after being serviced. The update is available now in Settings on supported iPhones. Just before iPhone 14 units went out last week, Apple released an update meant just for them. Now the company's doing it again for hardware due out today. Apple Insider says Apple on Thursday released watchOS 9.0.1 specifically for Apple Watch Ultra. It isn't clear what the update addresses according to the report, but if users want to avoid service issues or other setup problems, Apple Insider says it should be the first thing they do. Apple Watch Ultra isn't Apple's only new hardware hitting today, nor is it the only new hardware with an update. Another piece from Apple Insider says the second-generation AirPods Pro also get a Day 1 update. According to the report, the firmware release is 5A377, up from the shipping 5A374 version, and applies to the AirPods Pro 2 only. Previous models will not receive the update. If you're wondering what the update does, Apple has yet to say. As for how to get it, be patient. Apple Insider reminds likely frustrated readers there's no official method to manually update the firmware of AirPods. It installs automatically without any user input. This occurs when your AirPods are connected to an iOS device and are stored in the charging case with sufficient power. Despite the spate of updates, there is at least one more thing for Apple to fix. Jeff Butts at the Mac Observer writes up a mail bat that's driving people a mail bug that's driving people batty. Apparently, the Mail app in iOS 16 is prone to go crash if the From field has certain maliciously crafted text. If the address in the From has such text, iOS 16 Mail will crash every time it sees it. The piece says that iPhone 14 models running iOS 16 and iOS 16.0.1 are vulnerable to the flaw. However, Jeff says it looks like a fix is underway in a beta he's running of iOS 16.1. Perhaps not overly helpful if you're currently stuck with a Crashtacular Mail app. However, there are a few fixes that are available. To get your Mail app working again, TMO says access your email from a device not running iOS 16, such as your Mac or a device on the iOS 16.1 beta. Delete the troublesome email, and you should be fine going forward. The piece says you can also go to iCloud Mail from a web browser, where you can delete the malicious email. More news in a moment, but first a word from today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Online therapy. We've talked for a while now about using therapy to help solve problems. Maybe the problem isn't something that can be solved, though. Maybe the problem isn't the problem itself as much as how we're dealing with it. Can you tell the difference? And do you know what to do? If you're not sure, consider BetterHelp. Sometimes we talk ourselves into ideas or reinforce thinking in ourselves that may not be helpful. Talking to a professional counselor can help us out of that. What's great about BetterHelp, it's convenient, it's accessible, it's more affordable than traditional therapy, and it's entirely online. In the past, I have really liked being able to text my therapist just to check in and exchange ideas. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/macOSken today to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/macOSken. BetterHelp.com/macOSken. patreon.com/macOSken. And thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's show. Hey, here's something we haven't done in a while. We'll wrap the day with a couple of stories tied to Apple TV+. To Variety we go, where we find a lead for the Steve McQueen World War II movie, Blitz. Saoirse Ronan is set to star in the film, which the piece says tells the stories of a group of Londoners during the aerial bombing of the British capital during the war. McQueen is writing, directing, and producing the film, which is expected to begin shooting later this year. Roles for which Ronan is known include parts in The French Dispatch, Joe in 2019's Little Women, and the title role in 2017's Lady Bird. As for the film's director, McQueen has helmed such films as 2011's Shame and 2013's 12 Years a Slave. He was nominated as Best Director for that one. Though he didn't win, the film itself did take Best Picture. No word on when Blitz will hit Apple TV+. And finally today, from The X-Files to Breaking Bad to Better Call Saul, television creator Vince Gilligan is huge, and Apple TV Plus is said to have his next series. Deadline says the Untitled series is the biggest TV project to hit the marketplace in quite a while. Little is known about the show now. According to the piece, Better Call Saul's Rhea Seehorn is set to play the lead. Apple has already picked up 2 seasons of the show. And did I mention Vince Gilligan of X-Files, Breaking Bad, and Better Call Saul fame? As for what it's about, Deadline's only heard hints. The show seems to walk away from the gray and darker areas hit by Gilligan's last 2 titles. Compared to The Twilight Zone, Deadline says the new series is said to be set in our world while putting a tweak on it, bending reality and focusing on people and exploring the human condition in an unexpected, surprising way. Thought-provoking, but not a morality tale, the series also is expected to carry the signature Gilligan tone that infuses drama with humor. No word in the piece on when the show might premiere. Today on the Mac Observer's Daily Observations podcast, TMO managing editor Jeff Butts is back in the house. Despite saying he was not getting an iPhone 14 Pro, he went and got himself an iPhone 14 Pro. We'll get his thoughts on the Deep Purple machine, plus a look at some of Apple's big little OS updates. That is all today on the Daily Observations podcast from the Mac Observer, online at macobserver.com or wherever you get podcasts. macOS Ken, brought to you by me and sponsored by Notion, one workspace for your whole team. Learn more and get started for free at Notion.com. This show is also sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/macOSken. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.